Clear contenders are emerging. Another deal goes down as we move closer to the deadline, and a special guest drops by to discuss all things lacrosse. Time to step up and in. It's the Junior Beast podcast on CROW LAX TV.
Welcome back to the Junior Beast podcast. My name is Keenan, as always joined by my co-host Muhammad, and we do have one very special guest with us for this, I don't know what you want to call it, mid-season show here on CROW.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly put, Keenan. A little bit of, I don't know, it's not really the All-Star break, but the All-Star break usually comes in about halfway through the season, so we'll go with the All-Star podcast here as we're joined by Cody Janzen, voice of the Saskatchewan Rush. Of course, you know him as the former Fort Saskatchewan Rebel play-by-play man. Cody, it's been a long time, and we're really glad to have you in on the podcast here tonight.
Fellas, it's way too long. About time. I've been waiting for the call, just all year. Every week I'm checking my email to see if I'm getting the invite. So I'm pumped to be on here talking some Junior Beast. This is where it all started for me, and this is honestly it's what gets me going. I'm watching all the games on CROW LAX TV. You guys are crushing it out. Every weekend, I feel like there's 5 to 10 games that I can just sit back on my couch, melt, and watch YouTube games for free, and they're a high quality broadcast. They continue to get better, plus the whole podcast. So you guys have taken the wheel and you're driving it great right now.
Well, don't pump our brakes too much because maybe we'll crash the bus at some point here.
I was just gonna say, Cody, I take full blame for not having you on last week. I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday, and I was like, man, I just realized I told Cody that he's gonna be on this week, and then we had to record at 11 o'clock, and I was just like, yeah, he's probably asleep. So I was like, we'll do it next week. And I made sure that I got on top of that. So we're glad to have you in here as we get ready for another week of action. But before we do that, I want to just ask you a few questions about the season that was. Of course, the Saskatchewan Rush go all the way to game number 3 of the finals before going down to the Buffalo Bandits. Now, obviously, all expectations were far exceeded for the Rush this season. Team was very young, unproven, and there was a lot of unknowns with this roster. So I know you're going to say that they surpassed your expectations going into the season, but what were, where did you have them finishing in the standings before the year started, and how much did they exceed your expectations?
See, I think that's it's almost a catchphrase of exceed expectations, because I look at the offseason and I look at our very first media availabilities, and the goal was to get to the championship. The goal is to host a home playoff game. This is a team that from the get-go we thought would be having a home playoff game. That means you're a top 4 team in the league. This is a team that brings in Austin Shanks, Matt Hossack, already has Robert Church, Ryan Keenan, Frank Chiliano, Mike Messenger. They've got all the talent in the world. They've got veterans. They've got the young guns. They've got everything to be successful in this league. So, exceeding expectations, yes, but shocking, no. Because I truly believe this team deserved to be there. They were built to be there, and they're going to be there again very soon.
I think that's a good answer. Keenan in the past he builds his teams in a very unique way, and a way that a lot of other teams don't necessarily prioritize, and he builds it from the back out. And his teams are generally relatively young and very athletic out the back door. And that's sort of in a way, a dying breed of a team. And I think that gave the Rush a fighting chance right from the get-go. And I think you had a lot of guys come together, and the finished product was one that was pretty impressive, and I'm excited to see where they go next season. I also wanted to ask you one more question here, Cody, about the NLL season, just in general. Where do you think the league is right now as a whole? Do you think it's in a good place health-wise? There's a lot in flux right now. New CBA is needed, and some teams are rumored to be for sale. Do you think that the NLL is in a situation right now that it can, it's set up to flourish for the next, say, 5-6 years?
No, I think it needs changing, and I think that that's why the CBA is up, right? And I think that it comes down to both sides. I don't say it's unhealthy or anything. It's still a league that's growing in popularity. It's still getting more eyeballs on it, but they've got to figure out a few things, and whether that's getting butts in seats, whether that's getting this whole salary cap debacle in order, where I mean, I think if we would see true team bills, there would be a drastic difference top to bottom. And so, like, there's some give and take that the players and the owners are going to have to give into here on the CBA side. And I think that that's the real interesting part to me. Not to dive too deep into it, I think the players feel that they're missing out on money just based on what they're seeing from a few franchises, but maybe they're not seeing how bad it is at the other end of the scale, I think. And so, I think the players have to understand that. And I think the owners, if they're to give more, are going to expect more from the players. And, whether that's playing more games, I don't know. There's a lot of different things. I think there's got to be give and take on both sides. So, the health of the league, it's got to get better. I think that that's a fair way to put it. And I think that the teams and the owners, though, they're still the right groups in a sense of, hey, Brett Fruit's got a heck of a job to do here this summer, or basically in the fall now. But like, I think they can get it done. It's just going to take give and take on both sides. And that's where, I don't foresee a lockout coming. There's a lot of time. If they don't get a deal done, I'd be really disappointed. But like, end of the day, everyone knows it's got to improve, and it's got to improve all around. It's not just one area you can point out and say that's the reason why the NLL hasn't taken the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think attendance is a little shaky in some areas, and a lot of the revenue is generated through that, and obviously the more people that go to these games, the more money that'll be available for the players. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no salary cap at all, right, Cody?
There's a soft cap.
Okay.
But that's
yeah, it seems
again,
very soft.
it's an interesting thing though, of like, oh, you can have to pay a luxury tax, but again, if I go and sign Mo and Keenan to Janner's lawn cutting company and give you guys the bag in the off season, that's fine, right? So there still has to be a way to govern it. Like, you're not seeing Connor McDavid, you're not seeing SGA, like other top end pro athletes. They don't need summer jobs, and they're not getting the bag from, an owner in the summer. So you got to figure out, how are you going to become a legitimate professional league if you want to be that next major league, and cutting down on cash under the table has to be up there, right?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So with that, let's shift focus back to the Junior B circuit. And there was a trade that went down on Monday between the Warriors and Rebels. Rylan Connors goes from the Warriors to the Rebels for a first, a fourth, and the rights to Quinn Patterson. And overall, I thought this was a pretty good haul for the Warriors. Some decent value that they get back for a player that could be going A, or as we found out, would be going A. The Rebels end up getting screwed the next day as the Miners decide to roster Connors. And so all those assets go for naught. Guys, what are you thinking here on this trade, Warriors and Rebels? Try to remove the fact that the Rebels end up losing, the player that they acquired. They would get another player that will come back down to them, but just thoughts on this trade here.
Yeah, I find this trade interesting, seeing, a guy established kind of like Connors going one way, and then Quinn Patterson is definitely probably what I'm going to call one of the big important pieces of this trade. Now, I did the game with the Sherwood Park Titans and the CROW Tier 2 last weekend, and Quinn Patterson plays for the Titans, and kid knows how to move the ball, man. Beautiful overtime winner for the Titans as well. He just throws it on net onto Connolly, and Connolly just can't squeeze it. It trickles past through the 5-hole and in, and such a delayed reaction there. Honestly, I think the Warriors stack up in the draft. We already know they're kind of rebuilding this season. They get a couple extra picks next year, and sure, what we've called a few times now so far this season, a bit of a weaker draft. Nonetheless, it still helps them build out some players, and the Warriors organization's been good at developing players, so I think this is a great trade. But personally, I think the Warriors win this deal.
Yeah, and again, I think that obviously the Warriors win if Connors is going up to A, right? You just fleeced him for nothing. But like, okay, that means there has to be other trickle down moves, right? Like it's pretty clear the Miners don't just add without subtracting. So something's bound to fall. For the Rebels, though, I think it's pretty obvious within the move of, hey, they got to improve their offense. I think that there's been times where their offense looks unbelievable, and then there's been times where you can say, hey, they need an extra piece. Like, I don't know. Do you guys, maybe I've missed this. What's going on with Nolan Eastwood? I think he's only played a few games this year. Like,
Yeah, he went out about a few weeks ago. He's got some nagging injury that
Okay.
I mean, Darren told me that there was potential for him to be out 6 weeks at the time. I mean, it's been about 3 since, so he might be getting closer to getting back. But yeah, he does have some sort of injury going on.
Okay, hockey guy, so he'll be back for the North Final.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's I think they just need a little bit more help on offense. I think that they are still missing a couple of those pieces. Like obviously, like hey, Baker just shoots the piss out of the ball. Kid's good. Kalix Simonson's good. I've been really impressed with that Manning. Actually, he's a guy who I've heard a lot about. Haven't actually seen too much of him play. Kohut's been good, but like they still need help, right? You want to compete with the big boys in this league, you got to be consistent. And that's one thing the Rebels offense hasn't really been. So, yeah, it would have been cool to see Connors in that offense. I mean, Connors is a big kid, moves well, good feet, understands the game. I think it would have been fun to watch. But now for the Rebels, you kind of got to figure out what's next, right?
Yeah, no, I think that the Rebels are not necessarily the smoothest team even when they're really clicking. So I think when you watch them play and their offense is a bit disjointed or more disjointed than it usually is, I think it stands out a little bit more. But I think that they have told me that they're trying to be aggressive and adding pieces. There's no question that they need to. So that's the first step, and they've already gone out and tried to acquire some players. They are going to get a player back from A, at least one. So that'll help, especially if it's the guy I believe it's supposed to be. And then, I mean, I think that they've been aggressive in trying to acquire players even out of as far as Ontario. So we'll see how that goes. But I like the fact that they're trying to be aggressive here and trying to seize the
Well, they're hosting
opportunity.
Larry Bishop. You'd hope
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, exactly.
That opportunity doesn't come around too often. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it makes sense for them to add. They've got great depth, though. Like, I think they've got, I don't know, like a handful of guys, 10 guys or whatever with 10 plus points. You've probably got 15 guys with 2+ goals. Like, it's a deep team. They got a lot of kids who can, jump in the lineup on any given night. And so you do add in some of that high end talent. You do, up your team's peak level. And I think that's where you've got a chance to really be successful. And honestly, you go to the Larry Bishop, you got a chance, and you can go do some damage at the Founders too down in Calgary.
Yeah, exactly. And, I've been really impressed with Joel Avett with the Rebels. He gave them a big time lift in their second last, most recent game against the Outlaws. And he's an energy guy. He's really good on loose balls. And so, yeah, there are some pieces there that are, I think, better than what people realize, but we'll see how they're able to maneuver here through the deadline. All right, guys. So let's get over to some of these game recaps. And let's start on Friday night, where the CROW and the Outlaws would go at it. And man, this game was like off the charts, exciting. The CROW would end up scoring 4 goals in the final 7 minutes to tie the game at 10, and then win in overtime on a beautiful Liam Elliott behind the back goal. Also in this game, Grace scored a ridiculous around the world goal. To tie the game, Dickin would drag a defender all the way to the top of the crease and then shoot the ball through McLeod. There were some negatives in this game. Cody Porter got hurt in the overtime period and left, and he would not play the next day. And Grace would also leave the game halfway through for the Outlaws, would not return, and also did not play the next day. The Outlaws again got complacent and just going on and off the floor. They gave the Crude some high-end looks right in front of their net, and it cost them. And I thought the Crude's better players came up in the clutch when they really needed them. And the game looked dead. It looked like it was over, and guys like Liam Elliott, Graham Dickin, and Josh Fodchuk led the way. What do you guys have here? Crude triumphantly going and getting the overtime win at the Outlaws.
See, now, I've had my pieces on the Crude and the Outlaws throughout the season so far. I think, and I think you said it best, is that the Outlaws got complacent. And I think we've seen that a couple too many times from the Outlaws team. We've seen them leading against high-hitting, high-scoring offenses, and then they piss away the win in the dying minutes of each of them. We saw it against the Mavericks. Now we see it against the Crude, and I think this is back-to-back weekends now. So I don't know what the Outlaws need to do here to figure out how to close out games, because right now the dying stages of games are where you take advantage of the Outlaws and you can crush them right then, right there.
Yeah, I think if you're the Outlaws, you hold Josh Fodchuk to one goal, you should be winning that game. No offense to the other players on the Crude. Like, they got some ballers, but like, you're going to hold one of the top goal scorers in the league to one goal. You got to finish those games. If you're up by 4 goals in the third period, you got to win those games. You got to find a way, right? Because it's pretty clear right now, if the Crude are playing good, they're the second best team in the North. So Absolutely. The Outlaws, if you want a chance to get home floor advantage in that first round series, these are the games you can't be losing. But again, tip your hat to Liam Elliott. That kid's a stud. Hat-trick OT winner. Yeah, I mean, he's a big game guy, right? I think Graham Dickin's got that killer instinct also. But like, him and Elliott together, if they're going to be clicking, the Crude are a dangerous team.
Oh, Cody, you're making me feel some kind of way with that combination right there.
Yeah, I mean, the Crude, like we've talked about it all season, the Crude have the ammo in the bag. It's just whether or not that they're going to put it in the gun and use it. So I think that from an Outlaws perspective, you said it. They cannot lose that game, just like they cannot lose the Mavericks game. And the fact that it happened in back-to-back games, I pumped the tires of their coaching staff last week and because I think they're doing quite a bit with less in terms of talent. But those games that it happens once, it's bad enough, but 2 games in a row, that's just heartbreaking. And I actually felt for them in that game against the Crude on Friday, just having it happen that way. But we'll see if they're able to rebound. But if they're losing Grace and Porter for extended periods of time, that makes it almost makes it impossible. But we'll see what they're able to do coming out of that. Also on Friday, and I'll recap these 2 games together, the Mavericks and the Rampage would go at it in Red Deer. Mavericks win the game 18-9. The Mavericks pull away with a huge 8-2 second period. And how many times have I talked about it on the podcast about how good the Mavericks are in transition and how the second period plays to that. You see it there again. They're relentless. They want to play a chaotic game, and it seems like they kind of dragged Red Deer into that in the second period. Hayden Sutherland, man, 5 goals, 2 assists. Jace Dolinski, 4 goals, 1 assist. Gardner and Sinclair also with hat tricks. So these guys putting up half a season's worth of points in one game. And Riley Dowswell goes for 2 and 3 in a losing cause. So the Mavericks solidify their spot up atop the Central Division. And also on Friday night, the Shamrocks would beat the Mountaineers 11-10. And again, this was a game of one single period really being the difference. This time it was the first period where the Shamrocks would win 6-2. So they took a 6-2 lead to the break. And then we're up 8-4 after 2. And then again, much like in Regina, the Mountaineers would fight back and have a really strong third, but it wasn't enough. They go down by a goal. Tyler Auger for the Shamrocks goes for 2 and 4. And it was just very balanced scoring for them in this game. And the Mountaineers got contributions from a lot of guys, and they're a team that show flashes of being a contender, but just don't seem to put three periods together enough to be, to be up in the top echelon of the league. The South playoffs could be setting up to be quite tight. We all know the Shamrocks kind of own the Marauders, but the Marauders are going to have to play the Mountaineers in the first round, and then who knows what happens from there. But I'm looking forward to the South here, guys. What do you got here on these two games?
So we'll start with the Mavericks rampage on this one. Unbelievable, isn't it? How the Mavericks just dominate in transition. Like, I don't know when the last time is that we saw such a dominant transition game in this league. But the Mavericks just, that offensive short change, man, it is one of the toughest in the league. And I think that, their experience last year going all the way into Founders has really helped them kind of hone in on that transition game. And I mean, I got to give it to Trey Christensen and the rest of the coaching staff of the Mavericks, because they are doing a great job getting the best out of their players in transition. Like, unbelievable games. And to have 4 players get hat tricks and Hayden Sutherland almost getting double hat trick in a single game, man, unbelievable offense from that Mavericks club. Shamrocks Mountaineers, this is one that interests me, how close this game is, especially with just how tight that South Division is. Right now, I believe it's the Mountaineers are trailing the Marauders by 2 points, but the Mounties also have a game in hand on the Marauders. That is going to be the playoffs to watch, is going to be the South. Like, I don't see any other series. Like, I think both those series in the South playoffs are going to go 3 games. Marauders and Mounties, because the Shamrocks are looking dominant up top, and then Shamrocks and whoever they face. Like, just unbelievable. And I agree, I think the Mountaineers are showing flashes of being a contender. They just need to show up on time. They need to show up in minute number 1, not in minute number 21.
There were some crazy takes in there, Keenan. I kind of respect it. I kind of think it's absolutely outrageous. There is no way the Shamrocks don't sweep the South final.
Oh, come on, Cody.
That's like minus, I don't know.
Oh, there we go. That's a big proclamation. Yeah, Cody.
Oh, it's a big proclamation that the Founders Cup hosts aren't going to get out of their own division.
Hey, I didn't say they wouldn't get out of their division. No, I just said that's going 3 games.
Well, I said in 2. Okay, that's fine.
I guess I'm just saying it's a big proclamation in the sense they just came out right away and just like, the Shamrocks are sweeping.
Okay, that's not a crazy hot take by any means. They're a good team. They're just a well-run team. I'm not surprised those games are close either, right? Like, the Calgary teams don't have home floor advantage outside of you just drive to a different part of the city. So it's like, it's going to be close games. They're all sleeping in their bed. There's no such thing as a road trip in the South Division. So, like, now that Lethbridge is gone, they've kind of got it made. The Mavericks, that Alex Swan is so good. We don't talk, like, I don't think he gets enough recognition. Their Tendy is great. A huge body too. So yeah, he's awesome. And that Mavs offense, if they get cooking, similar to the Rebels, I think they got like 10 plus guys with 10 points this year. They don't have anyone with like 50 points or anything ridiculous, but like they got 4 or 5 guys with 20 plus points. They're just a well-balanced team. So no real surprise. I actually, I tip my hat to Red Deer too, because they're battling. They got some ballers, but like, they're kind of behind the 8 ball. They've lost a couple of huge pieces in Tisdale and Wells. So for them to be competitive, I think that's impressive too.
Yeah, and you mentioned Red Deer, Coochman also to the Miners, and then they. I know I got a text this weekend saying from a player on the team saying they had 9 guys out of their lineup against the Rebels. In a game we're going to get to. And I looked at their roster against the Mavericks, and it looked really short, even shorter than the Rebels game. So maybe a little bit of an asterisk on those results, but
hey,
we'll see.
It's the jungle. You got to battle through those. We don't make excuses for numbers. Have the right 10. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, you need depth. So the weeds, it is the jungle. The weeds sometimes wrap around your ankles and trip you up. So on Saturday now, Saturday morning, the Mavericks and Blizzard, and my God, Like, what is with this team? Mavericks go down 8-2 halfway through the game, and another second period surge gets them back into it, and then they down 5 with 7 minutes to go, and down 6 halfway through the game, and that was last week against the Outlaws. Now this week down 6 halfway through the game. They come all the way back. A 3-0 third period finishes it off, and Hayden Sutherland gets 4 goals in this one, and Ty Woods would go for 3 and 1 assist for the Blizzard side. Now this game was a tale of two sides. Obviously, the Blizzard would storm out, and then the Mavericks took hold of the game. And again, you saw it in the second period. Like, they just willed their way back into the game. I don't really have much else to say here other than, like, that's 2 miraculous comebacks in a row, really, or bookending the Red Deer game for the Mavericks.
Yeah, no, and same thing as with that Rampage game. The Mavericks just are so dominant on the offensive short change that, like, how do you beat the Mavericks, like, realistically, when they're firing on all cylinders like that? I mean, back-to-back games where they're practically down and out. I mean, if you also want to count the third, make it a back-to-back-to-back against the Outlaws last weekend. I mean, just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable what that Mavericks club can do when they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, Sutherland and then the 2 kids in the 70s. They're forwards. They're unbelievable players. But, like, I go back to the goaltending. They held the Blizz scoreless for 30 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah. You know, the last 30 minutes and 30 seconds of the game, the Blizz put 0 balls in the net. Like, you're probably going to win that game. You should win that game. They're lucky their offense stepped up, but, like, hey, they got it done when needed.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point. Now that McDonough's an A, I think Swan is it's probably safe to say he's the best goalie in the league. He's at least in the conversation, so he does deserve a lot of credit there. Also on Saturday, the Rebels would take down the Outlaws, a game I already talked about a little bit about. Reverse transition again, killing the Outlaws. This was a 4-4 game late in the second, and then they just decided to, like, half changes, guys looking like they're coming to the bench and not coming to the bench, or vice versa. Guys not tracking back, and guys just being unaware. And the Rebels took advantage of that. Jolivet with a couple of big-time goals in transition, cutting hard out the bench. He's a guy that's been impressive, as I said on last week's podcast. And Fort Saskatchewan doing just enough to win these games against these North teams. It's been a common theme. Rebels Outlaws, Rebels taking it 8-4. What do you guys got here?
Yeah, I think you saying that the Rebels are doing just enough to win these North games is probably a pretty accurate description of this. Again, we haven't seen the Rebels. I mean, maybe there's been 1 or 2 games throughout this season where, they're the club that's firing on all cylinders and getting everything right. But, I think there's times where Fort Saskatchewan is, maybe dropping the ball in the wrong, inopportune places. But even besides that, they're looking phenomenal, especially if you don't count that Eastern road trip. I mean, the Rebels are, I think, undefeated when they're not out east. I have to confirm that.
Yeah, they're beating up on the North Division, but, like, at the same time, they look bored, So I'm curious to see.
They're
they really
sandbagging, Mo. There's
I feel like
wasn't it like grad or like prom or something this weekend? I feel like there was like a lot of kids that were just out of lineups throughout the whole league. So I feel like there was something going on. But
I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it could have been. But
it does feel like they're sandbagging a little bit here. Like that's like a 5 handicap playing from the red tees. Like, at some point in time, you got to put these teams out of their misery, and like 4-4 late in the second with the Outlaws. It's a snoozer of a game, but the Rebels are a better team. I think the Outlaws are a better team than that too. Like, they're banged up and stuff, but I think the Rebels ceiling, they're kind of just cruising through, and come playoffs, they'll ramp it up. Dangerous. That's playing with fire to go through that strategy. But, like, the Rebels roster in general. Like I think Carpenter's up there when he's on his game with the best goalies in the league. That Martel's giving them some real quality minutes too. Like they're a team top to bottom that doesn't have any glaring weaknesses. They just haven't done anything that's like, oh my goodness, that's such an impressive team yet.
Yeah, no, I agree that Carpenter is up in the top, like, I would say quarter of goaltending in the league. So that is something that they have in their back pocket, in games where they were playing teams that might be a little bit more talented. They oftentimes are going to have the better goalie and a defense that can really step up as well. Even despite their struggles at times this year, their defense, has looked pretty good. So that might be a bit of a calling card for them as they look to move their way up into contender or greater contender status. Also on Saturday, we had another OT game, and this time it was the Blizzard taking down the Silvertips in a wild one. I saw the last 5 minutes of this game and the overtime. Back and forth, high-scoring game. Jacob Orr, a undersized goalie for the Silvertips, but man, he was making some great saves, jumping across the crease on quick sticks. The Blizzard had a late power play, extended power play. Some of it might have been 5-on-3 or 4-on-3. And he was making some spectacular saves in the cage. They get it to overtime, and then the Blizzard score a bizarre goal. Guy floats a ball at the net from the restraining line. Or drops down and it hits him, and the ball pops way up in the air and falls into the net. That's how the Silvertips would go down. The Blizzard would get a big win on their road trip through the Central Division. A bunch of players with huge point totals in this game. Have to mention Ty Woods here, 3 goals and 6 assists for the kid out of Winnipeg. Blizzard 13-12 overtime winners.
He plays college at like Davenport, right? That's the same Woods.
You're not thinking of the guy out of Nepean, are you? You could be thinking about the guy out of, but it's possible. You could be totally right. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I could be totally talking about the wrong guy, but if that's the same Ty Woods I'm thinking of,
because there was a Ty Woods that won the Founders with the Nepean, exact same name.
Yeah, so I could absolutely be botching this, but whatever. Don't.
No, Cody, you've got your lacrosse knowledge down to a T. I just looked up on the Davenport University website, and Ty Woods from Stonewall, Manitoba, listed right there.
Yeah, there so and again, I think like he's just an athlete, right? Like if it's he's a baller. He can dish the ball, he can shoot it. So yeah, weird overtime goal there, but the Silvertips are making some hay. It's not an offense to Orr, like he's not yet to be this stud starter, and he's got some huge shoes to fill. But like the Silvertips are staying competitive with what they got. And if Orr figures it out and dials it in, if their defense locks it in, that's a team that could still, push the Mavericks in some close games and the Chill.
Yeah, they get contributions from a lot of guys. And when I watch them play, I like what I see. They're always an athletic team. Like they're a team that likes to run, and that's always going to give a lot of teams problems. And they play in that division where they have to deal with the Mavericks and the Chill with the offense, the Mavericks with the transition game and goaltending. So
and the Rampage too. Like I know we talked about them a little bit, but like they'll just beat the brakes off of you. Like they've got kids who are ruthless on the back end, and I love it. It's basically like the farm kids. Same with the Mavericks, but like again, I love it. That's just throwback lacrosse. If you're breaking 4 sticks a game, like that's the Central Division.
Yeah, that's why that's partly what makes it so intriguing. You watch those games, and man, those kids want it. Grinders grind, man, and those kids I think they're raised a certain way, and they play lacrosse hard nosed, and I got a lot of respect for it. So, I have a lot of good things. And the Blizzard, they have one more game coming up here to recap, but they go through the Central Division. They go 1-2, but all 3 games, man, were 1-goal games, playing some very good teams, and I got a lot of respect for that organization. And they look like they're right back to being
they lost a ton of guys too. Lost a ton of talent. But
and new coaches and everything. So. No, that's an impressive road trip, despite the fact they went 1-2. Also, Saturday night, the CROW would go on the road this time. Actually, back-to-back road games First game was in Beaumont. Second game in Calgary. They were in that tough spot of back-to-back in different cities, a rarity on the Junior B schedule. But the home team would take control early, and they didn't play around. Chill would go up 4-1 after one. And it's a Chill team still battling injuries. Cash Bannister did not play in this game. Tons of crude penalties and misconducts. Just looking at the box score, discipline looks like it's been absent for them in a lot of these games. Luke Kenny, 3 goals, 4 assists. Grayson Bateman, 3 goals, 1 assist. And then on the crude side, Fodchuk with the hat trick, 4 points for him. So he does his thing. But the crude would fall, playing a team that, they were stepping up in class a little bit here, and they fell down a little bit. Chill get the win.
Crazy take. Okay, Keenan, I got to cut off here. Mo, come on.
No, give
We're
her.
talking about road games in different cities. It's like 2.5 hours away.
Hey,
they had 24 hours to get to Calgary.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but
away.
but
You're making it seem like they're driving to Winnipeg. No,
yeah, but
they
Cody,
just went down the QE2 and got their ass whooped by the Chill. We're missing one of their best players.
Listen, Cody, that's travel. Okay, sitting on the bus is not a good time. Like going to Okotoks, for example, like the 3.5 hours it takes 4 really to get to Okotoks. It feels like 8, and like usually it's hot, and you're like, I don't know. It does make a difference. Like I don't like guys. Also, when you play a game, right, your adrenaline's pumping. You usually can't fall asleep till like 4 or 5 a.m. And then these guys got to go back on the bus. Like it does take something out of you. I don't know. That's just my perspective and my experience. Maybe I'm a little.
They're teenagers. They've got endless energy. These kids are fine. They're probably crushing Red Bulls. Hey, I'll let you make the excuses for them, but like the Chill had 5 power play goals. The Crude got 0 from Dickin, 1 from Elliott. Again, they've got the players. We've seen it. We know that team can put the ball in the back of the net. They got to keep their head on straight, though. Like, this is a team that's notorious for taking dumb penalties. If they stay out of the box and play legitimate lacrosse, that is a hell of a team to beat. Because Will Horn between the pipes can get hot, and that kid can shut you down, and they can put 10 to 12 on you, no problem, when they're playing their game. But, you flip a switch and they're off their game, and it's just, they put up 5 against the Chill.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree that it's not the best, it's not a huge excuse, but I do say that for every team. Like, it is just a tougher situation, but I totally get what you're saying. They did have 24 hours in between games, so, but at least it wasn't a 3:00 game getting on the bus at like 8 a.m. or whatever. Those suck. That sucks. But yeah, Keenan, what did you take from this game?
I just want to add that I do like that the Chill finally. I mean, yeah, sure, okay, the Crude are taking some stupid penalties, and I think that's what. I know that's what contributed to the Crude's downfall here. But kudos to the Chill for, I've talked about it in recent weeks, how the Chill seem to also kind of struggle to close out games, and, they're super competitive on paper, and maybe they're just missing 1 or 2 things here that are costing them wins, but they're able to get that win against the Crude. Yeah, sure, was it a contest? I guess not, looking at the final score of being up by 6, but nonetheless, I mean, good on the Chill for getting a win, and maybe this is that win that they go into the back half of the season and they're like, oh crap, okay, maybe now we have a chance to pull up to the silver tips and take the fight to the Rampage and leave the Rampage on the outside looking in the Central. And I mean, we've mentioned it before, such a hotly contested Central Division, and I think this could be the turning point that the Chill needed, quite honestly, to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because you look at that division and one team obviously is going to miss. And
that's so unfortunate, man. So unfortunate.
Yeah, if I'm in that division and I'm like giving my blood, sweat, and tears, I'm looking around the league and I'm seeing some of these other teams. And it's like, man, like these guys are like, they know they're going to the playoffs, and we're here fighting for every inch and every last breath. Like that has to be frustrating. I don't care who you are, but it'll help them in the end if you do get in, because they'll be battle tested, and they'll have to go the hard way. Whoever gets out of there is going to have to earn it. So
Okay,
I'm looking forward.
you guys have seen more Crude in person than me. There's two guys who stick out on, that I think have produced at times, but can produce a little bit more. I think that Carson Schultz, however you want to pronounce
Yeah,
it, I think
it's
he's a
Schultz.
gamer. He can fly around out there, and he's produced some goals too for him. And then Bennett Fry, right? Like it's another kid who big body can shoot the ball. I know he's coming off that knee injury, but like those are guys who they can push the pace and transition and score. That should be things the Crew are getting regularly. Like that's an athletic team that can move the ball up the floor. You got to start burying some teams in transition.
yeah, that's something that like traditionally the Crew don't get a lot of is offense out of transition.
But you got
I don't
guys
know
that
if
can
it's like
fly off the bench too, like
yeah,
Fodchuk, Dickin, and Elliott. That should be where that D-man or first guy off the bench is covering every time. And now you're getting your defender or transition player with an open shot. You got
yeah,
to think that they've got the talent to bury. But like, I just don't
yeah.
know.
It's a
They're not
mentality
putting
type
themselves
thing.
in those
Yeah,
spots.
yeah. You're right. Fry is a guy that they do need more out of. He has the tools,
He's sick when
and
he's on his game.
yeah,
He's the Sam Bennett of the league. He's chirping everyone nonstop. He's
yeah. It
taking
doesn't matter.
penalties left, right, and center, and he can put the ball in the net when he wants. Right? It's the thing of like those guys figure it out at the biggest moments. And sorry to make the hockey reference, I just think it's like you see guys turn it on when things matter the most. I think Fry can be that guy, right? There's
Yeah,
no reason he can't, but you got to actually go out there and do it.
Don't worry about the
yeah,
hockey references, Cody. We make enough of them as is.
yeah. I opened one podcast talking about the Oilers, so don't worry about that. But yeah, no, he's a guy that's just a little bit inconsistent, but he does have the tools. And you're right. He'll chirp. Doesn't matter if it's on Instagram or on the floor. He will go after it. So also on Saturday, the Shamrocks and the Warriors would go at it at a stupid part, and the Shamrocks would take the 13-4 win. This game just appeared sort of be cruise control. Warriors just don't have the offensive pieces right now. Lucas Lutweiler, kid who played out of Nanaimo Junior A last year, goes for 5 goals and 1 assist. Jaden Kalinich, 2 goals, 4 assists, and Gavin Ferrati, 4 assists. The Shamrocks are now on a 6-game winning streak, boys. I don't really know how much there is to say here other than the Shamrocks look to have kicked things into gear after a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah, and I mean, a part of this game too. I mean, we already, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast too, the Warriors are a rebuilding club, and I know we'll get to their next game here shortly too that they played this weekend on that road trip. But the Warriors rebuilding, so I mean, kind of if you're the Shamrocks, it's a bit of a gimme win and a bit of a stat padding night maybe. Nonetheless, I mean, the Shamrocks dominant as ever, and I think I started the season by saying that the Shamrocks might not win that division, and boy, you know what? I will take the fat L on that one because the Shamrocks just killing it right now on that win streak.
Yeah, the Shamrocks are, best team in the South, probably one of the, top 5 teams in the league. Not really surprising there.
Yeah, not at all. And then the Warriors the next day would go into Crossfield to take on the Silvertips, and almost the exact same score takes place. They would go down 13-5. Theme of the better team coming out early and taking control out of the gates was prevalent again here as the Silvertips had a 7-0 lead after the first. Logan Newhook, 4 goals. Tyler Montgomery, 3 goals. Rylan Connors for the Warriors, who has since been traded, would get in on all Warrior goals, scoring 4 of them and getting 1 assist. Pretty impressive for a 17-year-old to be able to do. I don't know. We just talked about the Warriors here. Anything else here, guys?
Yeah, the Silvertips looking strong as ever. I mean, they've always kind of, we saw it last year too. They really took the fight to the Mavericks. Silvertips ended up coming on top last year, just barely. So yeah, I mean, Silvertips Mavericks going to fight it out for the top, and they always will. And this is just showing their dominance.
Yeah, top teams doing what they should.
Yeah, say no more. And then also with that theme, the Rebels, who are at top of the North, would win 13-4 at home against Red Deer. Again, the first period was the key period for the team that was probably favored going in. The Rebels come out and get a 6-1 lead after the first. Kalik Simonson, 2 goals, 4 assists. Jackson Cohot, 3 goals, 2 assists. And Jackson Baker, 2 goals, 2 assists as he passes Ethan Wong and becomes the Rebels' all-time leading scorer. Now, like, way too many people make too big a deal about statistics and like individual accolades and just numbers. I say it all the time. You can have very good players with lower point totals, and you can have guys that are a little overrated with high point totals. But nonetheless, this is an accomplishment. I think Jackson deserves a big congratulations, and it's nice to see a record be broken. Congrats to you, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson's a heck of a player. That's without a doubt. I think Wong had a ton of success, with the Rebels. And so for Baker, I think, now you've got this record. That's great. I think your legacy comes down to what do you do next, right? Do you win the Larry Bishop? Do you lead your team to a championship there? Do you go to the Founders and have some success? Because in my mind, and I think that most people would agree, that's a lot more impressive. The points is crazy. Don't get me wrong. He has a 200 plus is stupid for any player, but
yeah,
you take that team to a national championship. You win a Larry Bishop. It's more impressive.
That's what it's about. Yeah, exactly. I think the Rebels would tell you the same thing. Keenan, what do you take away from that Rebels game?
Yeah, Rebels, like Cody said for the last couple, just top teams doing what top teams need to do, and that's what the Rebels did against the Rampage. And, congrats to Jackson Baker. Been in the league for quite a few years now, and, it's great to see that individual accomplishment reach him of 200 plus points. I mean, can we just talk about how ridiculous that stat is? That's like, what, 45 points a season or something like that on average? Like, just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, well, he's at 220, so this is his 4th year in the league, and he's only halfway through the season, so it's more because if you think about it, he's played 3.5 seasons, and he's got 220 or whatever,
Oh.
so it would be more like 60 per. Yeah,
Man,
so
does anybody ever catch Jackson for a
yeah,
while
no,
now? Like, holy.
yeah, it's gonna.
Imagine
He's
what
played,
Wong and those guys would have had though if COVID didn't take out like 2 years.
yeah,
So
yeah,
true.
yeah.
I think it was 2 years. I could be
No,
fully
I think
wrong.
only one. No, it was their 5th year. Their 5th year got wiped out. They only had 1 year left. Those guys. But you're totally right. It would have been obviously harder to surpass. But I mean, given though Jackson would still have next year too.
Yeah,
but
no, that's for sure.
yeah. All right, and then also on Sunday, the Chill get the Blizzard on their 3rd game of the weekend as they rolled through the Central, and the Chill came out on top 11-10 in a game that they needed, considering how tight that race is for playoff spots in the Central. The Blizzard involved, as I said earlier, in a lot of great games this week. They played 3 one-goal games. This was another one of them. The Chill special teams came up big here, 5 power play goals, and their big guns came to play. Cash Bannister, 3 goals, 3 assists. Grayson Bateman, also 3 goals, 3 assists. Cam Wallace also goes for 3 goals, 2 assists. And on the Blizzard side, Andy Angus with a hat trick and an assist, and Wyatt Gallagher, 1 goal, 4 assists. I'm just these two teams. I thought impressed this weekend, despite the going 1-2. The Blizzard, I think, showed they can play with a lot of the better teams in the league. Seem to be clicking offensively. What did you guys take away from this?
I personally, for the Chill, throwing up 11 goals in back-to-back games, and also in 2 games that took place, like the first game ended and 13 hours later they're back on the floor for another game for the Chill. So I mean, man, to throw up 11 in back-to-back games, I said for that game against the Crew that might be the turning point, and to beat a Blizzard team like that in a hard-hitting game, sure, you have them on the 3rd game of their road trip, but nonetheless, you beat a Blizzard team that's been dominant in recent years. That's a win that you tuck in your back pocket for later, kind of thing for the Chill.
Yeah, I know the Blizz are on their 3rd game in 30 hours or whatever it is, but like if you take 25, 30 penalty minutes a game, like you're going to get burnt. You don't deserve to win that game, right? So they took like 10 minors, took a major. Yeah, the Chill were good on the power play. For the Blizz, it's like if you're already running tired, you got to stay out of the penalty box. So probably shot themselves in the foot, although they made a bit of a comeback. But clearly, you're not going to win many games taking that many penalties.
Yeah, especially in like a lot of these teams, penalty kills are not very good. So that's one thing I noticed watching some of these games around the league. So best to just try to stay out of the box. And then last game, and I didn't even know this game took place until I was recapping, doing my notes, and there was a Tuesday game, and it happened in Saskatchewan where the Kings would take down the SWAT 19-8. Again, better team just put their foot down. Kings offense is amongst the elite in the league. I'd put them in the top three. And Ryan McDonald would put up 4 goals, 5 assists. Nothing really to see here other than the fact that the Kings did what they really should and took care of the SWAT.
Yeah, and I mean, we basically already know we're at the halfway point now in the East. We basically already know the Kings are taking that top spot in the East. I mean, this is more of just a routine win, getting some reps in for the playoffs kind of thing for them. And that's nothing against the SWAT personally, just the Kings 9-1, sure including default wins, but 9-1. I mean, next closest is 5-5.
So I think the interesting part, and that's that the Kings go to the Founders now automatically. So it's a bit weird how Saskatchewan does it, right? Where it's like kind of an in-season series. But like since the Kings won that first game 12-8, and then I think they only play 2 more times. Something like that. I don't know exactly. They choose a couple of games or first 3 games as like a series. And so this win essentially means the Kings have punched their ticket to the Founders. I would assume the Blizz are going no matter what. I don't know if they've made a decision on that. I still think it's kind of dumb how Sask and Manitoba have to. And that's my fully bias living in Saskatchewan now. I still don't like the format for it. But like,
yeah.
Again, to use a regular season game for that, I think they could have a 3-game series after the actual regular season, or find a different way, because a Tuesday night 9 p.m. in Regina, that's a road trip, Mo. That's a road trip.
Yeah,
so I have to go 3 hours south on a Tuesday after most of these guys are sharpening skates till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you got to, take off your work clothes from your first real job, head down to Regina, and go sit in the smoking hot Ala Ritchie. Yeah, that's a road trip there. So, and then the Kings just go and put up a 20-piece on them. So I feel bad for the SWAT to some extent, but like the Kings are good. That's a legit club they got going on.
Yeah, no, that's a garbage trip. I'll say the same thing for that. I forgot how far that Saskatoon is from Regina. That's a tough trip. Like that, those guys would be. You're getting off the bus and you're probably thinking like, man, like we gotta play this game.
Imagine the crying if one of the North teams in the RMLL or like the Alberta North Division would have to go play like the Shamrocks on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
We wouldn't hear the end of it. This league would be under protest.
There would be videos of guys like keeled over on the bus and stuff. No, you're right. It would be just hell. So, I do like the fact that teams are willing to do that there. I mean, in Ontario, they do it. Peterborough is obviously like, now it's junior A, so it's a bit different. But I will say I love that the junior A's here in the playoffs will play on like a Wednesday night in the middle of the, in the final.
They play a real men's series, best of 7.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to get to that a little later on.
Yes, we are. Don't spoil anything, Cody.
But yeah, no, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. So the fact that they're doing that, I'm like, man, yes. I was like, Alberta Junior A's kind of arrived now, where the fact that they're willing to do that, like I have a lot of respect for that. But topic for another day and maybe a little later on here. But yeah, that'll do it for our game recaps here. Boss of the week, co-winners, Hayden Sutherland of the Mavericks, 2 games played, 9 goals, 2 assists, and Ty Woods of the Blizzard, 3 games played, 7 goals, 8 assists. Just couldn't choose between the two of them. So
When did
decided
this
to.
become boss of the week and why? When did this happen? You guys got to give me the backstory.
Oh, there's really no backstory. I
How
just
is
was
this
like,
not the Junior Beast of the week? When did this get axed?
I was
I
just
thought
like,
I had
no,
a good name.
yeah, no, it is. But I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe I need to rebrand this a little bit,
No,
throw
cancel
something
it.
in
They're
different.
Junior Beasts of the week. I'm
Okay,
handing you the torch. Let's get
okay,
rid of Boss of the Week. They're Junior
okay.
Beasts.
All right. Okay. Okay. I'm with that. Okay. Beast of the week. Co-winners: Hayden
Yes, sir.
Sutherland of the Mavericks, Ty Woods of the Blizzard. There you go, Cody.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say that's all Mo for you. I had no
Yeah.
piece in
That.
that.
Yeah.
Pointing the
I
gun.
was on the fly. I was on the fly move. Like I changed on the fly there. So yeah, we're good. All right, Keenan. So we have a round table of questions coming up, and you're gonna ask them. So feel free to fire away, and then after we'll get into our power rankings. Yeah, let's start there with some of these hard hitting questions.
All right, gentlemen, I got 4 for you tonight. Some questions that we've maybe touched on before in the past, some things that maybe hotly debated. I'm gonna start it off with teams or team that have surprised you so far the most this season. Good, bad, anything in between. What do you guys got?
I'll let Cody go first because he's in Saskatchewan, so he's got a little bit of probably a different feel than I do. So we'll let him go.
I think the Kings have surprised me the most. They've been dominant through and through. I think that really surprised in a good way about them. I think underwhelming so far, it's got to be the CROW. They're below 500 and they got some absolute weapons. So they'll get up there. They'll be above 500. They'll be the second place team, host the semifinals. But like that, they've been underwhelming so far. And that's just because I know that like they've still got the pieces to be a legitimate Junior B team. They just got to dial in some things.
Yeah, I'll say the Silvertips have surprised me to the good.
Like that.
Just the fact, they lose their franchise goaltender, and I know he played some games at the start of the year, but he was kind of one foot in the door, 1 foot out. They lose Norris, who is a big time leader for them, just not just offensively, but just everything ran through him last year. They lost some, lose Contreras to one of their better transition players. So they had some key guys lost. They had the tragic loss of Owen George just a week ago. They've had some turmoil there, and they've continued to just go out week in and week out and play some very good teams and always take them to the brink. So I'll say the Silvertips have surprised me to the good. And then, look, I have to say the CROW because, I mean, Cody already said it. The talent, there's enough talent there to be comfortable, especially in the division they're playing in, to be comfortably, above at least 2 or 3 games above 500, and they've been under 500 this whole season, really. So I'll say the CROW.
And just to throw in my 2 cents, I'm going to say for the good side, I'm going to say the Shamrocks. I know earlier in the season, to start the season, I said that they weren't going to do too hot. Felt they lost a few key pieces. Maybe I didn't think they would be able to replenish for this season and have guys step up to the plate, but they absolutely have. They're keeping their domination on the South. And the Shamrocks definitely on the good side. Bad side, I'm going to third you guys. I'm going to say it's the CROW. I predicted them last year to win the division. Well, I took a very big L on that one. This year, said the same, and I think on paper they have what it takes, and I've said it before. They have what it takes to win this division. They haven't been able to make it click.
284 penalty minutes in 12 games.
Yeah, and that's just unacceptable at that rate. Like you gotta rein in the discipline a bit there. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, we've talked about this in the past. Cody, I know you talked about this back when you were running the show here on the Junior Beast. Hotly debated, what kind of improvements do you guys think could be made regarding the playoffs? I know that this is going to bring up a lot of maybe pain points here.
No, it's simple. It's just shorten the regular season and give us best of 7. Maybe the first round, based on the way things have gone, I don't know. Maybe tier 1's getting a little watered down. We've seen Lethbridge go too. Maybe you got to figure out different divisions, but it's time to go best of 7s. And I guess the extra hot take is like drop the Larry Bishop tournament and make it a best of 7 series. So have the North and the Central play a series, have the South and the East play a series. Winner of those two play at a best of 7 for the Larry Bishop. Like, still keep it around, but maybe drop the tournament format. I don't know. We've seen some really good tournaments and we've seen some really bad ones. I think this year they're actually doing a semifinals and then a final, and I think that's a massive step forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Like it when it was just the top 2 teams. So I think like that honestly could be the game changer. But just for regular playoffs, yeah, shorten the regular season, play best of 7s, even if that means you got to use 1 through 4 in each division. I'm fine with that. If we want to
Yeah.
justify getting these kids more games because you're just trying to charge them more money, I'm fine with that. But like, yeah, it's time we play best of 7.
Yeah, just to that point, Cody, it's interesting you mentioned that because, yeah, they changed up the Larry Bishop this year. So we got 5 games on day 1, 5 games day 2 for the round robin. And then Sunday has a lone game for the semifinal. Winner of that goes on to the gold medal game on Monday. So
That's
bit
awesome.
of a bit of a different format this year compared to years recent past.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that they're doing that because it opens up so many more opportunities and so many more possibilities in the round robin. Like this way, you're not risking having so many meaningless games on the last day. There's likely going to be more fighting for that last spot in the semifinal. So and for the bye for that matter. So I think that that's a good step in the right direction. But yeah, maybe you can do best of 5 in round 1, but no less than that. And then yeah, go best of 7 from there. Um, do you need to get rid of the current tournament format? I'm not sure. I think there's pluses to it. It can bring a lot of different. You're seeing a lot of different types of matchups throughout. Like Cody said, it depends on the year. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not as great. Like the year in Beaumont, like it was clear that it was going to be Shamrocks and Warriors game, and the winner of that was going to play the Blizzard in the final, and whoever got there was in because it was the Blizzard, right? So it took so much juice out of it. But yeah, no, I think that making that change in the Larry Bishop is a step forward. But yeah, you got to go 5 and 7 in the first 2 rounds at the very least, and then also I do think, and Cody touched on this, I think some realignment is needed just because these divisions are the Central is just so loaded, and then you look at the South, and you're in the playoffs no matter what because there's no 4th team, right? And then I know Edmonton, talent wise, is going through a down cycle right now, and the North isn't very good. But yeah, I mean, I think there's some realignment in divisions, and maybe just going back to North and South, even, and then putting like the Blizzard in the North and the Saskatchewan teams in the South, something like that's what they used to do. So maybe that's on deck too.
All right, so this is one that I know Mo and I have brought up a few times this season. This one's especially for Cody. I'm just curious on his thoughts. The roster changes and imbalances kind of battle that goes on between Junior A and Junior B and going on so late into the Junior B season. I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think anyone is. As much as I want to see kids get the opportunity, I think we got to figure out a deadline. I'd say like, I don't know, maybe it's got to be a little bit earlier of June 15th or whenever it is. I'm also just not a fan of like, as Mo said, it's like, oh, well, this guy's junior B team that he played on started earlier before his A team. So now he's going to play some B games and then he's going to jump into the A season. And I don't know. There's so much of that goes on in lacrosse. I don't think that there's a perfect answer or solution. I certainly don't have one, but I don't love it. I think that there's probably something that could change. And I know that every single summer you hear about it all affiliate issues. Oh, they're going to call this person or they're threatening to card this person if we don't loan them here for the weekend. And oh, now they're just going to sign this person that we just traded for. Whatever it is, there's not communication. It's not a healthy relationship from, I don't know if it ever has been really. So I don't know. They got to figure it out, but I really don't I don't see any promising signs in this regard, so it's not something you're going to fix, and I think you just kind of got to live with it. It's a pretty bad system.
Yeah, I think maybe they need to back up the deadline, maybe a couple weeks. I don't know, but like the junior A teams, and this is everywhere. Like this isn't like specific to Edmonton or Calgary or Alberta, but like the teams, it's just bad. It's probably worse here than other places, but like the teams have like need to release their rosters and make these decisions earlier. And look, if you have to send a kid down, or you want to bring somebody up, and you felt like you made a mistake here or there, fine. Make those decisions and make those changes. But like making these like cuts in the middle of June or early June or late May, it's just you're messing with the psyche a lot of these kids. Like, am I staying? Am I going? And am I wanted here? Where's my best opportunity to play? Where am I going to get where am I going to fit in? Where's my role going to be? Like, there's just so many permutations to this, and I just think the teams can do a so much better job of letting these guys know where they're going to be and just communicating with them.
Awesome. Well, one final question for you both, and it's mid-season, so maybe it's a little bit too early for this, but I'm curious your guys' predictions for that second Alberta rep at the Founders.
Oh,
Gee, I mean, doesn't this come down to power rankings? I think we just skip this one and go to power rankings. No?
yeah. I mean, I guess, but I guess you could say power rankings would be like what we see happening like right now, and then maybe like to this question we could, yeah. But I get what you're saying, so maybe we just skip to power rankings.
All
You want
right,
to skip to
done.
power rankings?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's head right to the power rankings then in that case.
All right. So let Cody go first.
All right, we going 5 through 1.
Yeah, 5 through 1.
Okay, my number 5, and I had to change it up here because I did get a sneak peek at Moe's, and I couldn't go exactly the same. So number 5's the Rocky View Silvertips. I just think that if that Orchid can just hold the fort, I think that that's a team that can still upset a couple of games. Number 4, Regina or Queen City Kings. There's a common trend in my top 3. It's the top 3 coach teams in the league. I think that there's no one's surprised. Number 3, I've got the Shamrocks. Number 2, I've got the Rebels, and number 1's Mountain View. I think Trey Christensen has proven that he can run an organization that's there to all the players buy in. They play the right way. They've got that high end skill. They can lock it down on defense. I think they're the top team. I think Darren Beret's got a pretty well-balanced team in Fort Saskatchewan. They get some offense going. That's a scary team in a Larry Bishop format. One game, they could very quickly end your season. And then the Shamrocks, I think they might still add even here too, but they're obviously a good team. They're going to be a competitive team. Curious. I think they've got to add a couple of spots still, but Jason Crook and company run a first-class organization. So any one of those 3 I could see representing Alberta, or I guess any one of the top 2 could see them representing them with the Shamrocks at the Founders.
Yeah, there's one major area that I'd like to see them address. We'll see if they do it. Talking about the Shamrocks. Keenan, what do you got here?
All right, well, my top 5, I'll also go 5-1 because I guess that's how we're doing it. I guess we normally do it that way anyway. Down at number 5, I'm going to put a newcomer in this list for this week of the Calgary Chill, coming out with 2 big wins in, less than a 15-hour span between start and finish of the first and second game. So, big wins for the Chill. Hopefully that moves their playoff hopes into a stellar fight with the Tips or Mavericks for the second, whoever ends up running into that second spot. Moving up into number 4, I'm going to put the Mounties. Sure, they lost, but they're looking strong, and I think just with a slight change, they start to win games and start to, come into games at the opening whistle. They could be somebody to definitely contend with. Up at number 3, I got to put the Queen City Kings. They're doing absolutely phenomenal work, 9-1 in the East. You know, it's going to be hard to beat them, especially come around to the playoffs. Number 2, I feel like kind of our top 3s are all very similar. Number 2, I have the Shamrock sitting there as they have their 6-game win streak that they're riding right now. And then right at the top, Mavericks Lacrosse Club. Trey Christensen, hats off to you for a dominant team in that second short change. And, I think the Mavericks maybe make a few changes on the long change, offensive long change side of the ball. And, this is a team that goes all the way into making maybe potentially a deep Founders Cup run.
Keenan, I have one question for you. How did the Rebels fall from number 2 last week to out of your top 5?
You know what? Rebels were an honorable mention, and until those 2 chill games, they were sitting at my number 5. So,
okay, fair enough. All right, so I got the Rebels at 5. They had a bit of a bounce back win against Red Deer on Sunday. There's still a lot, I think, that needs to go on there, but they're moving in the right direction, I think, and they have an identity, which is defensive, gritty play, and Carpenter's a pretty good goalie. So they're at number 5. Number 4, I got the Calgary Chill. They had a couple of home games this weekend, able to grab a couple of big wins. Their power play came through for them against the Blizzard, and we'll see if they're able to carry that offensive punch, double digits in back-to-back games. That's what they need to do to win, and we'll see if they stay true to form and play to their identity, which is their offense. Number 3, another offensively gifted team, the Queen City Kings. They've been rolling. They've played a ton of home games to start this year. They're going to play almost every game on the road here to finish out. So that is my question, what type of team they will be on the road. But for now, they're going to be at 3, just filling the net. Number 2, much like you guys, the Calgary Shamrocks, 6 games in a row they've won. They found a way to get a close win, even though they led for the entirety of the game against the Mountaineers. That division, they know they're going to finish first, so they'll be able to get some rest and figure out who they're going to play in the playoffs. And then at number 1, I've got the Mountain View Mavericks. Team that plays in your face is always going to be playing at 100 miles per hour. That team, every time that they hit the floor, they're driven to win. And it sounds so simplistic, but there's a lot of teams that you never know what you're going to get when you see the Mavericks play. You typically get a full driven effort. So they're going to stay at number 1 from last week for me. So that does it for the power ranking segment. Keenan, why don't you tee everybody up for what's coming up on CROW LAX this week?
So, coming up this weekend on CROW LAX TV, as we were recording this podcast, the first game of the week was happening between the junior drillers and the senior drillers. Definitely one of the more interesting YouTube thumbnails I've ever had to make, having 2 of the basically exact same logo in it. That game would end with the senior drillers taking out the junior drillers with a final of 9-2. Still to come up in week number 8 on Friday, a pair of games as the Rebels will visit the Warriors, 7:30 p.m., and the Calgary Chills stroll up to Crossfield to take on the Silvertips, that game at 8:30. Rolling into Saturday, a 3-game slate there as the Mavericks take the trip up the QE2 to take on the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels, that game 2 p.m. Calgary Mountaineers also going to join the Mavericks on the road, maybe in their own bus, however, as they're going to head to Beaumont for a 3:30 matchup against the Senior Outlaws. Final game on Saturday as the Rampage take the short trip down the QE2, the opposite way of the 2 other guys, as they'll take on the Silvertips 7 p.m. on Saturday. And 3 games to close out your weekend on Sunday. 1:30 p.m. the Lakeland Heat taking on the Sherwood Park Titans in a Tier 2 matchup. 3:30 p.m. the Senior Drillers will take on the Capital Region Saints. And a final Junior B Tier 1 matchup, 6 p.m., St. Albert Crude taking on the Edmonton Warriors.
Thanks, Keenan. And as always, you can hit me up on Instagram at m.joma and Twitter/X at MJ_9. I want to thank Cody, for stepping up and in here this week. Always so great to talk lacrosse. There's very few people, Cody, that I can talk lacrosse with on a certain level. You're one of them. I always appreciate that opportunity, getting some fresh outlook on what's gone down, and as you see things, how they've progressed, province over. So thank you so much for joining us. I know we might have kept you up a little later, but I really appreciate the time, my friend.
Hey, boys, when you can't find anyone better, give me a call. We'll hop on here. No, it's awesome. Unreal to see what you guys are doing with the Junior Beast and CROW LAX TV. Honestly, it is moving the needle in Canada for all of lacrosse media, what you guys are doing. So always a pleasure, boys.
Well, we definitely appreciate that, Cody, and we'll be sure to have you on one more time, probably for a pre-playoffs show. I don't know if you'd be down for that one. Hell yeah. I love hearing that. Well, for my co-host, Muhammad, and for our special guest, Cody Janzen, my name is Keenen Canada. Be sure like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. Be notified every time we go live all season long across Junior B Tier 1, Junior B Tier 2, Alberta Major Female, and Senior B, as well as you'll get notified every single time a new Junior Beast drops right here on the channel. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and X at CROW LAX TV. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Junior Beast.